welcome to my show.
Thank you, Ramesh. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Hiren. I said in my introduction that your passion is becoming a profession. How did your passion start?
It started quite early. I used to go along with my father to attend the annual shareholders meeting of several companies, and I was overawed, watching Rahul Bajaj or a Deepak Parekh and Dhirubhai Ambani stand up and speak about the vision of their companies. And then, you used to get those colorful annual reports at home. You should, flip through them.
Not understanding much, but...
Yeah, but, over time, developed a keen interest to try and understand, what makes companies move, why they grow, why do the stock prices go up and down. And then being a commerce student, ran a small stock market game with my accounting professor. So got indoctrinated.
At early age. But what was your first job on the Lal Street?
I started my career with a firm called K.R. Choksi and Company. Worked with Kishanbhai and Devanbhai there.
A bona fide legend of the street.
Exactly. I learned my basics there, going and visiting every annual general meeting, every IPO meeting, marking out the papers, cutting them, making files on companies, writing copious notes.
It's hard to believe 20 years ago there was no net.
Exactly. I mean, you had to go to the stock exchange
and actually physically write down
the results, because after 3 days they would take it off,
Right.
So those were the fun days. But yeah, I mean, I really got my grounding in research when I worked at K.R. Choksi. And then subsequently in '94, I joined Prime Securities, where I was part of the investment team, which was supposed to pick stocks so that the prop book could invest in those companies.
How did you get to Alchemy?
Well, after working 9 years in the markets, I thought it was time to strike out on your own and do something on your own. So I thought I would start a portfolio management company. And when you take these career-defining decisions, you sit with your best friends. So Lassit and Ashwin, whom I had known since '91.
And your co-founders now at Alchemy.
Exactly. So we sat together one evening, and I told him that I was planning to quit and start something on my own, and to the other, and we decided that why don't we all get together and start an asset management company, and that's how Alchemy Capital came into being.
But how do you generate an idea today?
We look for a large external opportunity. We look for a competitive advantage that a business has got to exploit their opportunity. We look for scalability, good quality management, and valuations. And today, with the advent of technology, we're using some algorithms to refine the process and make it more scientific as we go along.
Give me an example of this formula, process-driven system that you employ now, of an idea that it has generated.
We were looking at the consumer businesses way back in after the global financial crisis, because we were not sure whether the global economy will really grow, what will happen. There was a lot of uncertainty. But one thing that we were very certain about was that the domestic market is likely to grow. And we picked several consumption stocks which came up at that time. So sales were growing at a healthy clip, margins were expanding, and that came through in our filter process. And then came Bajaj Finance. And we thought this was a great way to play indirectly the India consumption story.
Second level thinking?
Exactly. I mean, while we bought the Batas and the TTK Prestiges of the world, this was a great way to play the credit consumption boom in India. People were buying cell phones, refrigerators, washing machines. And how do you buy? You couldn't buy an LG or a Samsung, right? So you basically bought.
They're not listed. Right?
They're not listed. Yeah. So the best way to do was to play the consumption theme through Bajaj Finance. There was great underpenetration of credit in India, and I think they had a unique business model to attack this opportunity.
Explain that to me. What was unique about their business model?
So, it's not new. I mean, there were other players who had also, who saw the opportunity in retail consumer credit markets. But I think what they did was that they went after top line growth. So they appointed third-party agents to go and source business for them. What Bajaj did was that they had their own person sitting in a consumer electronics store. They had their CIBIL database, they had their own algorithms, so they could figure out if a customer approached them, whether in 20 minutes, whether you were eligible for a loan or not. Which means that they acquired their own customers, they didn't leave it to somebody else to do that. So, their processes, their systems, their credit
So you actually went to Vijay Sales to check this out?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we'd done all our desk work, and then, I hopped across to the closest Vijay Sales close to my house, and I went there on a weekend, and I saw the person out there from Bajaj Finance sitting there, and I was there for an hour or 2 hours, and it was great to see customers walking by, interacting with them, and walking out with the products.
It also helped that Bajaj had some of the best management in the business?
Absolutely. I think, all the 3-4 people at the top, were really great. I mean, Sanjeev Bajaj with the big picture thinking, he mapped out the opportunity. Nanu Pamnani, obviously, being a veteran in the financial services business.
Ex-Citibanker, good in processes, systems.
Absolutely, cutting edge processes and systems. And then obviously Rajiv Jain, who actually executed the business plan to the T. I mean, every time we would go and meet them, we were surprised. We came away surprised and wowed. They were always 2 steps ahead. While they liked the growth and they were aggressive in pursuing their growth, but they never took their eye off the risks in the business. So, whether it was providing ahead of the curve, whether it was using technology, whether it was using the best processes, we always found them on the ball.
I know one of your partners at Alchemy is probably India's best investor, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. What have you learned from Bhaiya, as you call him?
Oh, many things. I mean, it's been a great learning experience.
When did you first meet him first?
Oh, I met him when we were supposed to, start out Alchemy, and Lashit and Ashwin took me to him, and I was obviously overawed.
He was already a legend by then.
Absolutely, overawed with him, and learned a lot. But I think the 3 most important things I've learned from him is humility, risk reward, and the conviction to play big.
Humility, he's not known for humility.
No, I think people mistake it. I think he speaks his mind. So, he's not a yes man kind, and it's not very easy to convince him.
You talked about his conviction, and, he's known for, having, brains of steel almost, if you will. You have an example of that?
Yeah, I think, as one of the big learnings in the stock market is what George Soros said, right? So, when you're convinced, you should go for the jugular, right? It's not about you going right, but it's about how much money you make when you go right. And I think that, as far as Bhaiya is concerned, I think that he bets big when he's fully convinced. But I think more importantly, he bets big at the right price. Because
the risk reward
has to be in your favor. If the risk reward is in your favor, you can afford to be a long-term investor. If you buy at the wrong price, you'll always make a mistake somewhere along the way. And I think those are important learnings that we've kind of tried to imbibe from him.
Interest rates are negative, $13 trillion worth of bonds. So how does investment principles work in this kind of environment that we've learned for 30 years, that you say for 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, Rameshji, I agree with you that we are in uncharted waters today. I mean, I've never seen this kind of a scenario where there's unlimited QE, there's negative interest rates. But I think that what the investment grades have taught you is that, stick to the principles. I don't think that the basic principles of a successful business change. So I think cash flows still matter, sustainable growth still matters, ROC still matters. And I think those basic principles don't need to be violated. It's like the Bhagavad Gita, right? I mean, the basic principles don't change, times change, you can, the context changes, but the principles remain the same. And I think that's what we've got to do, stick to the basics, and I think you'll be fine.
So, that's great actually, because if they could change, they were not principles, right?
Exactly.
Right. And they say about good alchemists, that they turn lead into gold. What you're doing here is turning good investment ideas into great investment opportunities. Thank you for being a part of our show.
Thank you, Rameshji. It was really a pleasure.